I'm going to bring to the stage the people that made that movie happen. Please welcome Shin and Addelman.
Does it matter where we sit?
Wherever you want, yeah.
There's 3 chairs.
3 chairs and 2 people. I don't think I'm sitting with you guys.
You're not, okay.
Cool.
I'll take this one.
So first and foremost, as like just a human element.
This is weird.
Yeah, this is weird.
Yeah.
As a human element, sitting in the theater for the first time, watching people watch a movie, how do you feel?
Well, it's not quite the first time, but every time is special. And I don't know, it's a movie with a lot of raw things that happen in it, and a lot of, depends how you view it, and good, bad, terrible things are done, so it's always different. I can, the energy in the room is always different. Yeah, it's an interesting experience for me always to sit and watch it with people.
I guess like from the start, in order for this movie to even work, the chemistry has to be believable, and Avon and Eve just completely like knocked it out of the park. When you guys were casting, how did you kind of know, how did you know that they were gonna just suit each other so well?
Well, you don't ever really know. It's a bit of a gamble every time, and I feel like this movie is really her movie. He's a huge, vital part, but I don't know, I'm a woman. To me, this was a movie about a woman, and so we cast her first. And Eve is she's so incredibly charming. And she's really got the chops. So this is a young woman who, just to give you the backstory, I mean, her father is Bono from U2. So
Anybody know who that is? Yeah.
And I only say it because you would think that she's been handed everything in life, potentially, to live such a privileged life. But she went to Tisch School of the Arts at NYU. She showed up her first year as an actor, as an acting student, and she says that everyone there kind of dismissed her. They were like, you're Bono's daughter, you're gonna drop out. You don't need this. You can just go to LA and get an agent, you don't need this. And she's like, I stayed for all 4 years, and I proved them wrong. And she follows through. She is a true actor. She really has so much talent. I think she's incredible. So she was very clearly the person I wanted after meeting with her, and then we cast around her. Like, who would she have chemistry with? Who would look like her husband? And actually Jen found Avon. I didn't know who he was. And
yeah, I mean, Avon's a really great Canadian actor who actually, I didn't even know was Canadian. It was just kind of a surprise because we'd seen his stuff, and he was Tut in the King Tut miniseries with Ben Kingsley, and he just was a fresh face that we're like, he would be a great complementary partner to Eve, and so that's that.
I mean, we're definitely like watching the movie from Franny's perspective, but I thought, I'm gonna boost your tires here. I thought the way you wrote Avon's character also, like, you really spoke to a male perspective in this dynamic. So when you were writing, how did you kind of separate each character and kind of get into their heads?
I think, and I'm not going to say anything new here, I think like most, writers say this, that you find a way, every character has a little piece of you in them. So there are a lot of...
Even Gavin?
Even Avon?
Gavin.
Oh, Gavin.
Is there a little bit of Gavin in you? Trying on different pairs of shoes, jumping up and down?
Gavin's more someone I've observed. He's a man I know.
We all know a Gavin.
Yeah, that's a guy. That's a real dude walking around on this earth. But I think there's even like a part of Noah that I can put myself into. That the sort of Hamish Linklater's character. And to try to find some degree of like humanness, even if I think Noah's an asshole. He's not a good guy, but he's a human to me. And I think that Dan it was very important for me to make him human as possible. And sometimes we really love him, I think, and then sometimes we don't like him, and then we like him again, and that was very important for me, that I wanted that in the movie. I wanted that in him. It was, 1 a.m. We were in an underpass in Toronto. It was freezing cold.
It's in October?
It was the very end of October. Like, we were shooting around Halloween 2 years ago.
Yeah, and you guys didn't have the roads blocked off and everything, so you kind of film it in between.
Something happened with the location, something weird, where like normally you would have things blocked off on a public street and people wouldn't be able to just walk right through your set, but...
During a sex scene.
But for this scene, at the beginning, like when she's like about to kiss him, there's a guy that walks by in the background, and that was just a dude, that just walked by on his way home, I guess. And these poor actors were, they were so game for it, and they understood that this was an important scene, that this was an important moment when fantasy collapses. You're given these, you cobble together lists of possible names that you think the characters could be, and often on the top of the list are these outlandish ideas, like really famous people. And on the top of our list for this character was Andie MacDowell, and we were like, well, should we try it? And we tried it, and then she was like, yeah, I'll do it. And I was on the...
Wait, really? You're gonna do it?
It was really that easy and quick in a way. I think she read the material, and Rebecca wrote this beautiful letter, and she really responded to it, and she saw a lot of her daughters in the story.
She does have 2 daughters who are around the same age.
And so I think she just connected with that and was like, this is fun, and I want to work with female filmmakers, and I really responded to what Rebecca had to say. And then I think Rebecca, meeting her through Skype, also, she was charmed by Rebecca, naturally. And obviously.
Why wouldn't she be? Yeah. Okay, we're going to open it up to the floor here. So if anybody has a question, feel free to raise your hand. We have patrons with mics that will come to you. Don't be shy.
It's always hard to ask the first
We have,
one.
We have a gentleman right here.
Hi, thanks. What's your next project?
Ooh. I'm currently working writing a TV show and pitching my own TV show. So, because my background was largely in TV before making this. So the TV work is always happening at the same time. But I'm writing 2 movies right now. They're in early stages, but I'm writing one with my brother. Did you guys know that? I'm writing one with my brother. And that's set in the 90s. It's sort of like a high school story set in the 90s. And then another one that is kind of more about my life now. And that's all I'll say about it, because it's not fully formed yet.
And of course, Dead to Me will be on Netflix in 2019.
Dead to Me is the show I'm working on right now, and I'm writing on this show that's for Netflix. It's coming out in 2019. We're just writing the first season at the moment.
She won't tell anybody anything about this.
I can't tell you much. I can tell you it's about 2 women who meet in a grief group, and it's a comedy, dark comedy, and one is kind of harboring a very dark secret, and it's not even cast yet. We're currently trying to cast it and find actors for it, but yeah, it'll be on Netflix next spring.
I think we had some questions up at the top there.
Hi. I'm always intrigued with the first line of a book or the first scene in a film and how the writer comes up with that idea. And the only thing, I think some of us might be thinking, what's the backstory on this couple? And were you ever tempted to put the backstory in, or did you always know you were going to start right there at the wedding? How'd you come up with that?
Yeah, I always knew I wanted to start with them getting married. There was, and we shot it, there was a whole scene that we cut out that was the very beginning of the movie, where they're sort of standing in that courthouse area right before they actually get married, and they're sort of talking about, like, should we, shouldn't we, oh my God, I'm so nervous. And it just felt like redundant, so we cut it. Like I felt like all you needed to know was, boom, they've done it. I often say, I love the movie The Graduate. I love how it ends. So they're this young couple running away. You think that they're so, perhaps in love and great things are about to happen, and then they're on the bus and their faces kind of fall because they don't really know what's in store. And to me, this movie picks up where that one left off. Like, they've impulsively gotten married. Yes, they're in love. Yes, they believe in it. Yes, they aren't looking past tomorrow. They're just plunging ahead. And I felt like that's all you needed to know to start the movie. Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the earlier discussion of scenes and characters and how you planned this and that. I was wondering how much latitude the actors had in any of this. Was everything completely scripted, or did you let them have some play in building of the scenes?
Yeah, there obviously was a script, and I always felt like it was important to get the script. But the actors are so talented, and they bring so much to the characters. They have thoughts, they have interpretations, and sometimes they're coming up with stuff that's better, And they knew, and we had all discussed that there was latitude, there was a lot of freedom, I think, and we would often do passes where it was like, okay, now's the pass where you can play around, a take where you can just play around and try anything, or, you know what, Avon had a great idea, let's try it that way. And understanding each actor's strength is something that is really helpful to do. Hamish Linklater, who played Noah, is brilliant and hilarious and a fantastic improviser. And some of the funniest things that came out of his mouth were just him making them up. So when you're directing, and you're like, oh my God, I'm sitting on a gold mine, I'm not gonna stop that. And that's something I've learned in TV too. On a lot of TV shows, your actors are some of your funniest people. They're some of the funniest writers. And the ones who are good at it, you let them go, you let them improvise, because you're gonna get fantastic results.
We were talking that we have some mutual friends that worked at Much Music, and when I was watching Goosed, I was like, only somebody in TV knows exactly what this is like. So was there a specific show that reminded you of like that kind of dynamic and that work environment?
Yeah, I kind of modeled Goosed. I know Goosed is a little unclear. It's like, what is that? But it's sort of a little bit based on those game shows like Wipeout, American Ninja Warrior, where you have to do some. There's this show called Wipeout. No, what's it called? It's called
Oh Sit.
Oh Sit. Yeah, Oh Sit, and it's musical chairs, but like American Gladiators meets musical chairs, where like people are running around this big platform with chairs, like knocking each other off and kicking each other in the head to try to get to the chair. And I was like, this is.
Sponsored by Gatorade, something like that.
I hope no one here worked on O Sit. I would feel really badly what I'm saying. But I remember watching it and being like, this is so weird. Okay? And I really wanted Franny to have a job. Like, I really wanted her to have big dreams, and she really wants to be a writer, and she wants to write good, funny TV, but then she kind of gets this job that's like, this, like, it's so adjacent to her dreams, but she's still gung-ho and wants to do a great job at it. That was the idea.
It was well written. Yep, fellow over there.
Really enjoyed the music selection in this movie as well. Can you tell us a little bit about the music, especially that last song that played during the credits? Who wrote it? How did you find it?
Yeah, that last song it's also the song she dances to, right? And I love that song. That song is by a woman named Phyllis Dillon, who was like, I don't know, the female Bob Marley. Like, she was a Jamaican reggae star in the 70s. And yeah, and if you look her up, like every song's amazing, and it just sounds so good. And I just, I remember like we talked about it a lot, where it's like, I want Franny to be into reggae. Is that weird? Like, is it gonna be weird in this movie if there's a lot of reggae? But I really
She
like.
is from Glendale. That's
She's from Glendale.
huge reggae
The
community.
reggae hub of the planet. But yes, so I always wanted that song. I always wanted the song in the opening credits as well, the Sonny James song. I find as I'm writing a project, I'm creating a playlist and I'm finding songs that tonally or atmospherically conjure up the emotional landscape of whatever I'm writing. So there were a lot of pre-selected music ideas, but then you also have to work within a budget, and music is so expensive. Like needle drop, they call it needle drop music, the stuff that you are licensing versus score, it can be really expensive. So we had to also just work within our means.
But Rebecca definitely curated. It's funny because during the today's screening, I was like, you really curated this
Yeah,
playlist.
Jen leaned over into me and was like, you did some good music.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
But she did curate it, and also like to kind of go with that. Our composer Michael Brook is really wonderful, and did such a beautiful job with the score, and he's done films like Into the Wild and some really
Brooklyn.
and
He did
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
And
Yeah.
so it was a pleasure also to have him on board. And
It's a whole aspect of filmmaking that I, as a writer, was not used to. It was sort of, where do you put music? How do you use music? It's so vital to cinema in general.
Is it more than just like a Spotify playlist? You're just sitting there one day and you're like, yeah, this feels like Dan and Franny right now. A good time for Dan and Franny right now.
Kind of. I mean, it's good to have a jumping off point, because even if you can't get that song that costs so much money, at least you can tell someone, I want it to sound like this. I want it to feel like this. Yeah.
Do we have any other questions from the audience?
Sorry,
Yeah.
I guess I'm hogging things here.
The question is about the title of the movie.
Yeah.
Paper Year. I mean, from what I've heard, I don't even know if I've ever even researched it, but I think it's true. That like the first year, marriages have like gifts, or that every year is a different thing, and the first year is paper. So. Because I always conceived of the movie, and it's not, we sort of abandoned having to like force it into the story itself, but that they sort of have spent one full year together.
And the first year's the hardest, right?
And the first year's the hardest.
No, it gets way worse.
But it's just, I think it gets deeper, and you have to navigate more. You've got to know how to do it together. That's right. You got to earn
Look at
that.
that, look
You
at
got to
that.
earn
I like
that diamond.
So is there a sequel in the way, the Diamond
Here's
Year?
first. I would love to.
The Return of Dan and
You
Franny?
guys know those the Linklater movies, like Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, Before Midnight. He made. I mean, I love him, and he made 3 movies, and each one are 9 years apart, with the same 2 actors playing the same 2 characters, and you're tracking this relationship. And I just thought that was so brilliant and cool, and he did it first. But yeah, it's a good idea. Maybe I'll steal it.
Is that about it? Oh, we have one more.
so this.
Oh, sorry, guys. We'll go. You waited,
first.
so we'll go with you first on the top
Oh, no,
left.
that's fine. I was just wondering, with all the discussion of expensive music and everything, how do you go about raising funds to pay for a movie?
Oh, that's a great question for Jen, the producer. That's a producer question.
I mean, this project, I think it was an easy sell because Rebecca's so talented, and it's true though. Like, I mean, we're lucky we're in Canada, where there's some really great financing bodies that can help support filmmakers, and so to introduce a new voice that seems like is somebody that's on the rise and that should be a filmmaker to support. And this is sort of, I mean, this is is on the cusp of when, people really at large culturally were really wanting to support female filmmakers. And so we came in at a time where the CBC was also looking to really invest in projects specifically. This is even before it became the Breaking Barriers Film Fund, but they were looking to support rising voices in film and television. And so, we got their early support well before it became an established film fund. And they, were big fans of Rebecca as a television writer and could see her make that transition into feature film. And as a result, we were able to get that project financed relatively quickly and easily because we had a lot of supporters here who wanted to help her make that transition into features because she's been recognized, for her work on the television side, and it seemed like a natural fit.
Yeah, and the Canadian system is you sort of go to all these different funding bodies like Telefilm and the OMDC, which is the Ontario sort of telefilm basically, and you just sort of, if you're the producer, you cobble together enough money.
Yeah,
That way, basically, Canada has that available.
Every project is different, and
Yeah.
first features are really hard to make, and so accessing financing out of Canada is a great way to start to be able to support first-time filmmakers because it's not easy to get that financing together in general. And so, why not take something that is readily available and use it to your, to your advantage and create something that could be really great and, and tell a really personal story that feels bold and exciting, and it allows you to kind of experiment in ways that you wouldn't be able to experiment on a feature film that is, a $20 million feature where there's more at stake. So it's, first features are all about telling your story, and I think Rebecca does that.
Was there ever a time, though, you had to say, Rebecca, we can't afford it, we're not doing this, we can't have it your way?
Many a times.
Many times.
But we always found ways to work around it, though. I mean, she wrote a script that was so large in scope, and when you think about things, there's so many things that didn't make it into the feature film that were of high production value. Like we shot on the Fox studio lot.
I did force these guys, Jen and the other producer, Christina, I was like, I need to be on a real TV lot. Like it needed to look like real LA and real TV show. We cut it. They spent all this money to make it happen. And, then you're sitting and editing and you're like, nah, it doesn't work. Get rid of it. And it's like, all this money.
Much ado about that.
Yeah, so, but you learn, I guess.
Sorry, the scene between Noah and Franny in the bedroom after he reads, and he's reading the poem and walking over to her. So Hamish is not known to be that kind of good-looking leading
Like a
man guy.
sexy
He's
guy,
that funny guy from Old Christine.
Well, Christine, yeah, he's the
I'm
geek.
going to let him know you said that.
No, but it really
Not joking, yeah.
worked. So I wondered, when you were talking about the casting earlier,
Yeah.
I mean, you have this guy who looks like Sal Mineo, who she's married to. who's-
Yeah, isn't he
right?
so cute? Yeah.
Gorgeous. And then you've got him, and then he ends up being the one that she's like so taken aback by when she's got Sal Mineo beside her. So just curious how that happened.
I think that, well, first of all, I think that in many ways, Franny and Dan, I'm not trying to sort of cast aspersions on young people at all. Like, I want to feel like I understand and relate, and I was them. But a lot of their relationship hinges on a certain kind of lust, I think. I think they don't have the capacity to really talk through their respective issues and dig down emotionally. They sort of turn to sex and a physical connection to get them through. So I think it was important to me that they had that, that they were attractive. I mean, not without being, I didn't want like the crazy kind of movie star attractiveness that takes you out of it. We're like, Angelina Jolie, you're too good looking. I don't understand.
person.
You're an alien. But whereas the Hamish character, Noah, he represented something else to me. He represented this like more cerebral, professionally successful, had more status just as a human, and that was more what was attractive. In fact, that I often think that he represents what Franny wants to be, but even more than someone she wants to be with. It's like she wants to be at his level. And
He's from New York.
yeah,
He's a
stuff like
playwright.
that. Like, oh wow, you know, like all this stuff that seems so appealing. If only I could be like that, then maybe I would. It would. I don't know. I mean, she's a bit lost. You know, she's still figuring it all out. So Hamish is Hamish is awesome, and he's so kind, but he also was a playwright in New York, and he's really cerebral and really funny and really sharp, and I think that's where he gets a lot of his own magnetism.
And he did get written up in the Isherwood.
He was reviewed by Isherwood. Yeah, and he did use Yeats to seduce women, he told me. He used to read Yeats to women. I'm like, well, this is perfect.
He would never get Haley, though.
He would never get Haley?
No, he wouldn't get Haley. Definitely not.
Okay, now we're going too far.
Believe, yeah.
How much did it cost you to make the movie?
The budget was 1.3 million Canadian dollars.
1.3 US, 1.8 Canadian.
It was?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. It's because it grew. It's because
Yeah.
we spent too much money. I think that initially it was supposed to be 1.3 million Canadian.
And then it grew out because it was bigger in scope. the
Wow.
script.
Okay. So
Gotta
there
pay
you
for,
go.
gotta pay for those cops, right?
Damn.
Do we have one more?
Hi. I really like, we're both film students, and this was a really cool story to watch, especially because it was so authentic. And one thing I really liked was the contrast between him following her in the car for like the sexual pursuit and how it flipped at the end. But my question, that was just a compliment, but my question is
Thank
more
you.
about the one scene where she takes the contraceptive and looks right into the camera and the camera is locked on. That's like the only time that happens where the fourth wall is broken, at least that I noticed.
Yeah.
So why did you decide to make it happen then, at that moment?
This guy should be hosting this. That's a great question.
Film students asking the tough ones.
Thank you.
And I really want to have like a very smart answer for you right now, but I'm not sure I do. I think, you know, that scene, that moment to me represents a little bit her awareness that she's alone and that she's going to make some decisions alone, and that all the mistakes she's made and all the decisions she's made, because some of them are just decisions, like that getting married, that decision, it's not a mistake, it's just, it was a decision, and that it's this realization that she has to live with those things on her own, and no one's there to save her. And as we were shooting it, I mean, the DP and I had like very extensive shot lists, and we had everything always planned out, but then once we were shooting it, everything always changed. So on the day as we were setting up that shot, we did shoot it from different angles, and we got it from all these things, but we got one dead on, and in editing, I was like, that's the one. So sometimes you are finding the movie at each stage of making the movie, too.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
I guess another question with the budget is, was there ever just the thought in the back of your head, well, we could just ask Bono to borrow a couple $100,000, right?
Every now and then, I was just kind of like hoping.
Call your dad for us.
Yeah, or with the music, like, oh, maybe,
exactly.
maybe they can just like call in some favors.
Sunday, Bloody Sunday. Can we
He
just,
knows everybody. Sometimes, but but you know, you also know that's not going to happen, right? I don't know if Bono's seen it. I'd love to know what Bono thinks.
I'm sure he's-
It's true, me too, actually.
Go ahead. How long did it take to shoot?
Yeah, how long? We had 15 shooting days here in Toronto. And then we shot for 3 days in LA with the actors and 1 day of B-roll without the actors. So not that many days, you know? A lot of movies are like 120 days of shooting. Not this one.
How long was post-production?
That's almost an impossible question to answer because we were, right after shooting, we started cutting it, and we were cutting it until I gave birth to a baby. So actually, I was pregnant shooting the movie, and we were sort of just like, it was like this ticking clock that was growing, like sitting there with the editor, you know, like, well, any day now, I'm gonna have a baby, and are we done? You know, like, is this done?
That's the
and,
wrap?
Yeah, and
That's
then basically we were like going back and forth on all these tiny, tiny things, and then had the baby, and I was like sent an email, I'm like, it's locked, we're done. And then, yeah, I had to take a bit of time, and then we had to do all the sound design and color correction and all that stuff, so that took a bit longer because there was an infant involved. Yeah.
One more, I believe, our last question.
Noticed that you thanked Judd Apatow in the credits.
Yeah.
What was the inspiration, or what was his involvement, or?
When I made the movie, I was sort of working for Judd, actually. So I was working on a show called Love that was on Netflix that he co-created and produced. And during my first season there, I got the financing. Something happened. Yeah, it was. We were in the works of getting the movie ready to go. In between the 2 seasons that I worked there, we went and shot the movie. I came back to work on Love season 3, having just shot the movie, and he was just incredibly supportive. You know, like he's a filmmaker himself. He understood, and he gave me a lot of latitude. He gave me time off to edit. He pulled me into his office one day, and with Barry Mendel, who's his producer, and Barry Mendel has produced like all the Wes Anderson movies and Munich, and now he works with Judd, and they did The Big Sick, and the two of them were like, "What do you need? How can we help?" You know, and sort of just giving me advice and recommendations. And I'll tell you that what Barry Mendel says is always give yourself as much time to cut a movie as possible. So
don't get pregnant.
They also, yeah, seriously, don't have a baby. It's easy for Barry Mendel to say, but yeah, they believe that the movie is found in editing, and that's not incorrect. So he was just really, really, really supportive of even though I was being paid to like write a show for him, of going off and doing my own thing, and supportive of me being a filmmaker. So I owe him a lot.
And also, it was Paper Year that he read first of your work, didn't he? For Love.
I do think that's the script that got me that job.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, it completely worked, and I think I speak for pretty much everybody in the crowd. It's fantastic. Seriously, I really mean it. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, Rebecca and Jennifer, make some noise again. Thank you, guys.